Mastering the art of silence is one of the most underrated but powerful moves in building true mental strength. Because silence isn't weakness, it's not submission, it's strategy, it's power in its purest, most composed form. In a world where everyone is constantly talking, reacting, proving, performing, those who hold their peace, who pause before they speak, who withhold energy from chaos, become magnetic, mysterious, unshakable. There is strength in choosing not to respond when provoked, not because you're incapable, but because you know your energy is currency and you refuse to spend it recklessly. Silence is not about bottling things up. It's about self mastery. It's about knowing exactly what you feel, but choosing not to let those emotions dictate your every move. It's about having the emotional maturity to understand that not every situation deserves your reaction, that not everyone gets a front row seat to your feelings, especially if they haven't earned that access. Silence allows you to step back and observe. It gives you clarity in moments where impulsivity would only add fuel to a fire that should have never been lit in the first place. Mental strength isn't proven in how loudly you can argue, how quickly you can clap back, or how many points you can win in a debate. It's proven in how calmly you can walk away from noise, in how peacefully you can protect your boundaries without feeling the need to explain yourself. Because let's be honest, people who constantly need to explain, defend, or over justify are usually not trying to convince others. They're still trying to convince themselves. And when you're at peace, silence becomes your companion, not your punishment. When someone tries to provoke you and you don't react, that's power. When you're left out, overlooked, or misunderstood, and you still choose not to dim your light or spiral into self doubt, that's power. When people project their fears or insecurities onto you and you don't internalize it, but instead observe it with grace and detachment, that's power. And that level of strength doesn't come from ego, it comes from discipline. It comes from doing the inner work, from building a relationship with yourself so grounded that nothing outside of you has the ability to shake you. The art of silence teaches you to listen, not just to others, but to yourself. You begin to notice the difference between reacting and responding, between impulse and intuition. You learn to hear what's behind people's words, their fears, their wounds, their unhealed places, and you stop taking it personally. Silence makes space for discernment. You learn what needs your attention and what simply doesn't. You realize that peace is not something you find in the world, but something you cultivate within and protect at all costs. There's also a quiet kind of confidence that begins to develop. You're not just responding less, you're needing less. Less validation, less drama, less chaos disguised as excitement. You stop chasing closure and start creating it. You no longer look for answers in other people's apologies or explanations. You learn to sit with your own emotions, to self soothe, to trust your perspective without needing everyone to agree with it. That's when you realize silence has been your teacher all along. It's not empty, it's full of wisdom, of power, of choice. The mentally strong know that not every battle is theirs to fight. They know when to speak and when to let their silence be the final word. They know when someone is trying to bait them into a reaction that will cost them their peace. They see through the noise, the distractions, the ego traps, and instead of engaging, they simply lean back, breathe, and allow life to unfold with calm, deliberate grace. Because silence is not passive. It's active restraint. It's knowing your worth so well that you no longer feel the urge to shout it from the rooftops. And the truth is, silence makes people uncomfortable. Especially those who expect chaos, who thrive on attention, who feed off of reactions. When you don't respond the way they expect, when you hold your line without a word, it disrupts their narrative. It puts the power back in your hands. Silence commands the room without ever raising its voice. It's not about retreat, it's about rising above, about recognizing that the most powerful thing you can sometimes say is nothing at all. So while the world is busy shouting over itself, trying to be heard, trying to be right, trying to be seen, choose silence. Choose the pause. Choose to protect your peace, your dignity, your inner fire. Because the mentally strong don't move through noise, they move through purpose. And that purpose doesn't always need to be spoken to be felt. Discipline is the bridge between who you are now and who you're capable of becoming. It's not glamorous. It's not loud. It doesn't always look impressive on the outside. But it's the foundation of every strong, resilient, mentally powerful person you've ever admired. Discipline is showing up when motivation disappears. It's choosing consistency over comfort and growth over ease. It's doing what needs to be done, even when no one is watching, even when no one is clapping, even when the results aren't immediate. And that is where the true power lies. Not in one big, dramatic act of strength, but in the small, silent decisions you make every single day. Mental strength is built like a muscle. You can't just think about it or wish for it. You have to train for it. That training starts with discipline. It's choosing to keep your word to yourself, even when it's hard. It's setting standards for your life and refusing to lower them just to make someone else comfortable. It's getting up and going for that run, writing that page, meditating through the chaos, sticking to the plan because you promised yourself you would, not for anyone else, not for applause, but because you've decided that your future self deserves that kind of loyalty. The thing about discipline is it's rarely about the action itself. It's about what the action represents. When you follow through with your commitments, when you show up on the days that feel heavy, you're sending a message to yourself, I can trust me. And that trust becomes the core of your mental strength. You don't need outside validation because you've proven to yourself through repetition, through structure, through grit, that you have your own back. You're not at the mercy of your moods. You've created internal leadership, and that is a kind of freedom no one can take away from you. Too often we wait to feel ready before we act. We wait to be inspired, to feel energized, to feel fearless. But discipline teaches you to move anyway, to act in spite of fear, to show up tired, to push through boredom. It teaches you to separate feelings from responsibility. And in doing that, it rewires your mind to understand that strength isn't a mood, it's a choice. You don't need to feel strong to be strong. You need to decide to be strong. And you need to keep making that decision day after day, especially on the days it's inconvenient. Discipline also teaches you patience. It's easy to commit when the results come quickly. But real strength is staying committed when the payoff is far away. When you're planting seeds you might not see bloom for months or even years. Mental resilience grows in the waiting, in the showing up without proof, in the doing without reward. That's the kind of discipline that shapes champions. It's not sexy, it's not instant, but it is the difference between the ones who break and the ones who bend and bounce back. There will always be an easier path, one that tempts you with immediate comfort, quick distractions, short-term pleasure. But those things come at a cost. They steal your momentum, they drain your focus, and over time, they dull your potential. Discipline is saying no to what's easy so you can say yes to what's meaningful. It's recognizing that short-term discomfort is often the price of long-term peace. That choosing what's right over what's easy isn't punishment, it's power. And let's not forget, discipline isn't just about productivity or routines. It's also about emotional discipline. Learning to pause before reacting. Learning to manage your inner dialogue. Learning to respond with grace instead of impulse. That kind of control takes work. It takes intentionality. But when you master it, you stop giving other people the remote control to your emotions. You lead yourself. And that leadership is what separates the mentally strong from the mentally scattered. The most successful, grounded, mentally strong people are not the most talented. They're the most consistent. They've built discipline like a religion. They don't skip the basics. They don't wait to be rescued. They don't run from hard things. They lean in. They commit. And they do it not once but daily. They've learned that discipline is not restriction. It's liberation. Because the more control you have over your actions, the more freedom you create in your life. You move with intention. You become trustworthy in your own eyes. And that self-trust, that's the loudest form of confidence there is. Growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It's not found in the places where everything is easy, familiar, or predictable. Mental strength is forged in discomfort, in the moments that stretch you, challenge you, and even scare you a little. Because choosing growth over comfort isn't just a mindset, it's a lifestyle. It's an ongoing decision to stop settling for what's safe and to start stepping into what's possible. The mentally strong know that ease isn't always aligned with purpose. They understand that greatness demands discomfort, and they stop waiting for things to feel perfect before they begin moving. When you constantly chase comfort, you're choosing stagnation in disguise. Sure, it feels nice for a while. But comfort zones are not built for expansion. They are built for safety, for sameness, for survival. And you weren't born just to survive. You were born to evolve. Mental strength requires you to sit in the fire of growth, to embrace the friction of change, And to recognize that discomfort is not a signal to stop. It's a sign that you're exactly where you need to be. That tension you feel, that resistance, it's your potential asking you to rise. Every time you choose growth, you're choosing to meet a new version of yourself. And that version often comes wrapped in fear, in doubt, in the unknown. It asks you to let go of what you've outgrown and step into something that hasn't fully formed yet. That takes courage. But courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you're more committed to transformation than you are to comfort. It means you're willing to risk being seen trying, to risk falling, to risk failing, because you believe in what you're becoming more than you fear what might go wrong. Growth is messy. It doesn't come with a map or a guarantee. It requires you to unlearn, to release, to break patterns that once made you feel safe. And that's not easy. But mental strength is built through that very process. Every time you choose to do the thing you once thought you couldn't handle, you rewire your mind to understand that you're capable of more. You start replacing limiting beliefs with self trust. You start walking into rooms you once felt unworthy of. You stop playing small just to stay comfortable. You start expanding. Comfort zones are not just places, they're habits, thoughts, people, stories we tell ourselves. Always been this way. I'm not good at that. This is just how it is. These narratives keep you locked in an old version of yourself. Growth asks you to question them, to rewrite them, to see yourself not as a fixed identity, but as a work in progress. And that shift in perspective is everything. Because when you start seeing challenges as opportunities instead of threats, you stop avoiding the hard stuff. You lean into it. You understand that pressure is not your enemy, it's your invitation. Mentally strong people don't expect growth to be comfortable, they expect it to demand something from them: time, energy, vulnerability, focus. They welcome the stretch because they know the version of themselves they're becoming is worth it. They don't flinch at discomfort, they prepare for it. They condition their mind to handle hard things, not because they enjoy the struggle, but because they respect the reward. And that reward is always growth. It's always elevation. It's always a deeper level of self awareness, confidence, and inner power. The most transformative moments in life rarely come wrapped in ease. They come in breakdowns, in rejections, in endings. They come when everything feels uncertain and unstable. But those moments are also portals. They force you to dig deep, to get clear, to rise up. And every time you do, you become more of who you were meant to be. That's the paradox. The growth you seek is often hiding in the very place you've been avoiding, in the hard conversation, in the new challenge, in the risk you've been too afraid to take. And that's why the mentally strong chase growth even when it scares them, especially when it scares them. Because fear is not a red light, it's often a green light in disguise. It's showing you where your edges are. And those edges, they're not your limit, they're your starting point. So when you find yourself standing at the edge of your comfort zone, heart pounding, mind racing, take the step, lean into the fear, let it sharpen you, let it grow you. Because mental strength isn't built in the comfortable moments. It's built in the ones where you choose to rise, even when it's hard. Owning your story is one of the most radical, powerful things you can do for your mental strength. It means no longer hiding the parts of yourself that feel messy, painful, or unfinished. It means no longer seeking permission to be who you are. When you truly own your story, you stop being ashamed of your past, your scars, or your evolution. You recognize that everything you've been through has shaped you, not defined you. And that distinction is the beginning of self-empowerment. Mental strength doesn't come from pretending to be perfect. It comes from standing in your truth, flaws, failures, fears, and all, and choosing to move forward with your head held high. Too often, we shrink ourselves to fit into boxes that were never designed for us. We quiet our voices, downplay our success, hide our dreams, or mold ourselves into versions that are easier for the world to digest. But every time you dilute who you are to make someone else comfortable, you abandon your power. You begin to live a life that looks good on the outside but feels hollow on the inside. Owning your story is the antidote to that. It's the rebellion. It's saying, I'm not here to perform. I'm here to be real. Mental strength comes from radical self-acceptance. Not the watered-down, filtered version, but the raw, unfiltered truth. The parts of your story that didn't go the way you planned. The relationships that broke you. The decisions you regret. The moments you lost yourself. Those don't make you weak. They make you layered. They make you layered. They make you layered. And when you stop running from those moments, when you sit with them, learn from them, and integrate them, you unlock a level of resilience that no one can take away from you. There is a unique kind of power in saying, this is who I am, this is where I've been, and I'm still here. Not because everything went perfectly, but because you kept choosing yourself through the mess. When you own your story, you take back the narrative. You stop letting people use your past as a weapon against you. You stop being defined by things that once hurt you. You transform from victim to survivor, from survivor to warrior. And that transformation doesn't require you to be loud or aggressive. It requires you to be honest, grounded, brave enough to say, I don't need to hide anymore. People will try to put you in a box based on what they think they know, based on a chapter of your life they walked in on. But mental strength is built when you stop living according to someone else's version of you. When you decide that you get to be the author now, you get to rewrite the rules. You get to say, yes, that happened. And this is who I became because of it. There is nothing more intimidating than a person who is no longer ashamed of their journey because they're unshakable. They don't need approval. They're not seeking validation. They've already made peace with themselves. This doesn't mean glorifying your pain or staying stuck in your past. It means taking ownership of it, healing from it, using it as fuel, turning your wounds into wisdom. It means recognizing that the hard things didn't break you. They gave you depth, compassion, perspective. And now you carry that with you, not as baggage, but as armor. Because the mentally strong don't forget what they've been through. They honor it, they learn from it. And then they move forward, stronger, clearer, bolder. Owning your story also means refusing to compare your path to anyone else's. Your timing, your pace, your lesson. They are uniquely yours. The mentally strong don't get distracted by someone else's highlight reel. They stay focused on their own lane. They trust the timing of their life. They know that setbacks aren't stop signs, they're redirections. That every delay, every detour, every closed door taught them something they couldn't have learned any other way. And that kind of self-trust, that deep knowing, only comes when you stop pretending and start owning everything that brought you here. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are unfolding. You are remembering your power. And the more you embrace that truth, the more unshakable you become. No one can take from you what you've already claimed. No one can use against you what you've already healed. That's the kind of freedom that comes when you own your story. And once you do, you don't just grow, you rise. You stop living small, you stop hiding your voice, and you start walking through the world like you belong. Because you do, all of you. Every version, every chapter, every scar. Detachment isn't about not caring. It's about caring from a place of strength instead of desperation. It's the art of holding space for people and experiences without letting them define your worth or dictate your peace. When you develop mental strength, you learn how to love fully, give deeply, and show up authentically without becoming emotionally dependent on the outcomes. You realize that clinging to things out of fear, insecurity, or the need for validation only drains your energy and clouds your clarity. True detachment is rooted in confidence. It says, hey, I'm whole, even if this doesn't work out the way I hoped. Too often, we attach our self-worth to how people treat us, to how things unfold, or to whether life follows the plan we created in our head. We obsess over control, over making things happen, over keeping everything together. But that attachment doesn't give us security. It gives us anxiety. It binds us to outcomes we can't always control and makes us reactive instead of resilient. Detachment, on the other hand, is freeing. It allows you to show up with love and intention without tying your identity to the results. It teaches you that letting go is not the same as giving up. It's choosing peace over pressure. Mental strength comes from recognizing that your value isn't determined by who stays, who claps for you, or who understands you. It comes from knowing that your worth isn't negotiable. And when you believe that at your core, you stop chasing people who don't choose you. You stop trying to prove yourself to those who refuse to see you. You stop clinging to versions of the past that no longer serve your future. Detachment teaches you that it's okay to release things with love, to say, this mattered, this shaped me, and now I release it. That release is powerful. It's not cold, it's not distant, it's conscious, it's grounded. It's the realization that you can deeply care and still walk away, that you can grieve a loss and still choose yourself, that you can honor the story and still write a new chapter. This level of detachment requires inner strength. It requires emotional maturity because staying attached often feels safer, familiar. But it's an illusion. True safety comes from within, from knowing that no matter what changes around you, you will not lose yourself. When you're mentally strong, you stop needing closure to heal. You stop needing people to agree with your truth to feel valid. You stop holding on to situations just because they once made you happy. You understand that your peace is more important than your pride, and that growth sometimes means loving from a distance. Detachment allows you to see things clearly, without the fog of desperation or the noise of expectation. You no longer react from fear, you respond from wisdom. And in that space, your power expands. This kind of detachment doesn't make you indifferent, it makes you intentional. You begin to invest your energy where it's truly valued. You start discerning who deserves access to you. You no longer overextend yourself just to keep the peace. You create boundaries not as walls, but as a form of self respect. And when people push back against that, you don't panic. You don't crumble because your self worth isn't hanging on their approval. You've learned to stand rooted in who you are, even when it's uncomfortable. There is so much strength in being able to love someone and still walk away when your peace is at stake. To give your best and still accept when it's not enough for someone else. To want something deeply and still let it go when it becomes misaligned with your growth. That's what detachment looks like. It's emotional maturity in action. It's not bitterness, it's boundaries, not apathy, it's awareness. It's the quiet confidence of knowing that what is meant for you will never have to be forced. And what isn't meant for you, no matter how badly you want it, won't bring you the fulfillment you think it will. The mentally strong have mastered the balance between holding on and letting go. They know how to appreciate the beauty of something without needing to possess it forever. They can love from a place of fullness, not from a place of lack. They trust the flow of life, the timing of the universe, and most importantly, they trust themselves. Detachment isn't about disconnecting from your emotions, it's about anchoring them in a truth deeper than circumstance. A truth that says, I am enough, I am whole, and I don't need to grip tightly to prove it. You become mentally stronger when you learn to embrace failure not as a defeat, but as feedback. In a world obsessed with perfection, success, and winning, failure is often seen as a shameful mark, something to be avoided at all costs. But the truth is, failure is one of the greatest teachers you'll ever have. It strips away illusions, exposes weak foundations, and forces you to confront yourself. It humbles you, challenges you, and stretches your capacity for growth. Mentally strong people don't run from failure. They meet it face to face, learn from it, and rise because of it. Failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of success. Every person who has ever achieved something worthwhile has stumbled, fallen, and made mistakes. What separates the mentally strong from the rest is how they respond to those moments. Instead of internalizing failure as a personal flaw, they see it as an event. Something that happened, not something they are. They ask better questions. What did I learn? What can I do differently? Lee, what was this moment trying to teach me? They don't spiral into self doubt. They extract wisdom and use it to evolve. Learning to fail gracefully is a superpower. It means being able to stand in the ruins of something that didn't work out and still believe in yourself, still believe in the vision, still believe in the future. Mentally strong people don't tie their self worth to outcomes. They understand that failure doesn't mean they're unworthy or incapable. It means they're trying, stretching, daring. And that in itself is courageous. That in itself is growth. Because staying small and avoiding risk may keep you comfortable, but it also keeps you stagnant. True strength is choosing discomfort when you know it holds the key to transformation. Failure has a way of sharpening you. When everything goes according to plan, it's easy to get complacent. But when you're met with setbacks, you're forced to reflect, to reassess, to refine. You're forced to dig deeper than you ever thought you could. And in that digging, you discover resilience. You discover grit. You discover that you can endure disappointment and still rise. That you can lose and still be worthy. That you can be misunderstood, rejected, or criticized. And none of that has the power to diminish who you are unless you allow it to. Mentally strong people also understand that failure builds character. It teaches patience. It teaches humility. It gives you compassion for others who are on their own hard journeys. When you failed and rebuilt yourself, you no longer judge others harshly. You no longer operate from ego. You move through the world with a quiet confidence, a strength that doesn't need to prove itself. You stop obsessing over being impressive and start focusing on being real. Because failure has a way of removing the masks, peeling back the layers, and showing you who you really are when things don't go as planned. There is no shame in failing. The only shame is in refusing to try. The only true failure is giving up on yourself before the story is done. Mentally strong people know that failure is not a dead end, it's a detour, a redirection, a divine pause that often leads to something better than what was originally planned. But you only see that if you're willing to keep going, to trust the process even when it doesn't make sense. To believe that every fall has the potential to become a foundation. If you're brave enough to stand again, reframing failure takes practice. It requires you to shift your inner dialogue, to replace I failed with learned, to replace I'm not good enough with am still growing. It requires you to separate your performance from your identity. Just because something didn't work out doesn't mean you are broken. It means you're human. It means you're evolving. And every time you bounce back, every time you choose to show up again, you reinforce your mental strength. You show yourself that you're capable of withstanding the storm, and that self trust becomes unshakable. Failure doesn't mean stop, it means pay attention, it means adjust, it means be patient. And when you embrace that mindset, you stop fearing failure, you start using it. You become strategic with it. You stop seeing it as the end and start seeing it as part of the path. Mentally strong people don't just tolerate failure, they expect it. They prepare for it. They learn how to pivot, how to rework the plan without abandoning the purpose. And in doing so, they become unstoppable. Because once you're no longer afraid to fail, there's nothing you can't face. Mental strength is deeply connected to the people you choose to surround yourself with. The truth is, energy is contagious. The words you hear, the support you receive, the belief others have in you, all of it seeps into your spirit, whether you realize it or not. You cannot grow in an environment that constantly diminishes your light. You cannot heal in spaces that keep poking at your wounds. And you certainly cannot thrive when you are constantly defending your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. It's exhausting. And it keeps you stuck in cycles you don't deserve to be in. That's why choosing your circle is an act of self-love. It's a sacred, necessary boundary. Mentally strong people don't just let anyone have access to their inner world. They are intentional about who they let in because they understand how much it matters. They know that being around people who see your power, who speak life into you, who push you to be better without making you feel small, is not a luxury. It's essential. Your soul cannot flourish in the presence of bitterness, jealousy, manipulation, or love. You need warmth. You need safety. You need truth that comes with kindness and not cruelty. It's okay to outgrow people. It's okay to look around one day and realize that you no longer feel seen in the spaces you used to feel safe in. That doesn't make you ungrateful or heartless. It makes you human. It means you're evolving. And evolution often requires separation. Sometimes the people you love the most can't go with you to your next level. Not because they're bad, but because they can't meet you where you're headed. That's painful. That's real. But mental strength is knowing when to let go, not out of resentment, but out of reverence for your growth. You deserve to be surrounded by people who celebrate you in rooms you're not in, people who don't flinch when you shine, who don't shrink you when you succeed, people who love you, not just for what you can do for them, but for who you are at your core. Mentally strong people seek that energy and they protect it. They don't entertain chaos dressed as passion. They don't excuse disrespect in the name of loyalty. They stop romanticizing struggle relationships and start romanticizing peace, stability, and mutual respect. If someone constantly makes you feel like you're too much or not enough, listen. If you feel drained after spending time with someone instead of uplifted, pay attention. That feeling in your gut, it's not paranoia, it's your intuition. Your energy is precious. Your time is sacred. And mental strength means not wasting either on people who don't value you. That may mean walking away. That may mean standing up for yourself. That may mean being alone for a while. But your peace is worth it. You are worth it. It's okay to be soft and strong at the same time. You can be empathetic and still have boundaries. You can be compassionate and still say no. You can forgive people and still choose to love them from a distance. Mental strength isn't about building walls, it's about building standards. It's about creating a life where you don't have to constantly recover from the people in it, where your friendships are nourishing, not depleting, where love feels like freedom, not a cage, where you feel safe to grow without fear of being abandoned for it. Don't beg to be chosen. Don't plead to be understood. The right people won't need convincing to treat you with respect. They won't punish you for having needs or boundaries. They won't be intimidated by your healing or growth. In fact, they'll cheer you on. They'll sit with you in your lows and dance with you in your highs and dance with you in your highs. Sir, they'll speak truth into you when you forget who you are. They'll remind you that your heart is not too much. It's a gift. That your voice is not too loud. It's powerful. That your dreams are not too big. They're valid. The mentally strong know the power of aligned connection. They know the difference between people who want to grow with them and people who want to control them. They don't confuse intensity with intimacy. They choose environments that water their roots, not ones that poison their peace. And they never again settle for being half loved. Because once you know what it feels like to be fully supported, to be seen in your entirety and still embraced, you'll never go back to begging for crumbs. This is your reminder. You are allowed to choose people who choose you with the same energy. You are allowed to protect your peace like your life depends on it, because in many ways, it does.